Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Bernie Borges, and we're going to be talking about fulfillment-centric leadership, whatever that is. Bernie is going to explain. Bernie, where can people find you?
Thank you, Tim. Great to be with you. Well, certainly I'm very active on LinkedIn. So my name is my LinkedIn URL, Bernie Borges. And then my website is midlifefulfilled.com.
Okay. So, Bernie, what is fulfillment-centric leadership?
Okay.
Tell us.
So let's first start with a premise, Tim, and that is that we human beings thrive on being both personally and professionally fulfilled. Let's start with that. And in other words, when we come to work, we don't, whether we're physically going to work, meaning at an office, or we're just showing up at our desk at home, or for those that are doing, manual labor and they're going to do their work wherever they're going to do their work, you don't leave your humanity back at home. Yes, you put on a work hat, you're focused on the things you are focused on at work. Totally get that. We all do that. But we're still the same person. So, what I'm suggesting is that we want to be both personally and professionally fulfilled. And fulfillment centric leadership simply acknowledges that and simply says, let's look at the people in our team holistically as people, as human beings. Let's encourage them to be thinking about their personal fulfillment along with their professional fulfillment. And then, Tim, as I think you know, I've broken that down into what I call the 5 key life pillars: health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy. And I argue that every single one of us is on that same journey of seeking fulfillment across these 5 key life pillars. And so fulfillment centric leadership is the leader first beginning with their own self-awareness of that, where they are in that journey. And then that equips them to lead through that lens of helping the people on their team think the same way and seek fulfillment across those 5 pillars so that those people feel valued. And when people feel valued in the workplace, they give you their best work.
So you told me when we did the preparation call, you told me that this beautiful story of how something happened in 1990. I've written down 1990 and tragic incident.
Yeah.
Explain what, because they're my notes. Explain to me what I've written down.
So you're right, Tim. That is exactly something that really started for me some 40 years ago. So in 1990, I was in my first leadership role. And tragically, I had a team of 8 people. And tragically, a lady by the name of Lynn, her first name was Lynn, was killed in a domestic violence incident. And so, as you can imagine, that's just a traumatic event that not only impacted our immediate team, but part of her responsibility was calculating commissions for the sales team. So the entire sales team knew her, loved her. And so as a result of that, it motivated me to lead my people holistically as people. And it also gave me the awareness, Tim, that there's a difference between managing and leading.
Yeah.
And I learned that at that young stage of my career, my first leadership role. I still managed the work activity that we as a team had to get done, but I realized that I had an opportunity to lead them and show them authentic care for them as people. And now I reflect back on that and I realized that that made me sort of an unconscious competent because I took that with me. And in future leadership roles in corporate settings, I had like my boss come to me and say, "Hey, what are you doing with your people that has garnered so much trust? Like they really trust you." And I said, "All I do is show them that I care about them. I just ask, I try to get to know them a little bit as people. That's all." So, but it was very unconscious. And so fast forward to today in this framework that I call fulfillment centric leadership, what that allows leaders to do, organizations to do, is to really roll that out as a framework at scale so that you're not dependent on an individual leader doing it their individual unique way. Like that tragic incident way back in 1990 is what gave me the motivation to lead that way. but that's a one-off, right? That is a total one-off. You can't expect an entire organization of leaders to be leading one-off and to have an impact at scale. And that's what the meaning of that event is in 1990. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, it's
Even though,
okay. I also wrote something else down. You shouldn't say stuff to me, Bernie. Which is that you set yourself a purpose of reaching 3 billion people with this.
yeah. So that's my BHAG. My big, hairy, audacious goal is to reach 3 billion people with this message of fulfillment across the 5 key life pillars. And I don't think I can do that on my own, meaning that I don't think that I currently, today in 2025 anyway, that I have the kind of reach that can get out to 3 billion people. So that's why I'm trying to do it through leaders. Because if you think about sort of the mathematical possibility of the more leaders I can reach, the more individuals I can touch with this concept of seeking fulfillment across the 5 key life pillars. And Tim, the why behind that is because so many people who have come to the realization that seeking fulfillment across 5 key life pillars, the biggest realization they have is a sense of relief. Because prior to that, they were beating themselves up for quote unquote not feeling fulfilled. And I call that trying to boil the ocean. But when I simply said, well, ask yourself, how fulfilled are you in each of those 5 pillars: health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy? Then the light bulbs went off and went, oh, I'm actually very fulfilled in, say, 3 out of the 5 pillars, but not so much in 2 out of the 5 pillars. And there's this huge sense of awareness, Tim, like, okay, so now I know where I need to go focus.
I think, Bernie,
no, go ahead.
Sorry to cut in, because I think there's a lot of us that are running around going, we want fulfillment, but what is it? And so you spend your time searching for it. Whereas what you're doing here is you're putting forward and saying, I found out what it is. It's health, fitness, career, relationship, and legacy. That if you want fulfillment, those are the 5 things that you need to think about. Would you agree? It's more of a statement than a question.
So yes, and I also want to clarify something, and that is because you're bringing this up, and I think it's a really, really great point to bring up, Tim, and that is, what is the meaning of fulfillment? So last year, 2024, I did a study. I'm pretty sure you contributed to it because it was an anonymous survey. I don't have names of people.
But you asked. I did.
You did. Okay. So I had 530 responses. I co-produced this study with Udemy, and we had 42 questions on the survey. And so we had a lot of interesting findings. One of the questions that we asked, Tim, you may or may not remember, is, if you could only be fulfilled or happy, which one would you choose? Well, right above this question, we provided a detailed explanation of what is fulfillment and what is happy. So let me explain what that is. It's pretty simple. Happiness is an emotion. It's an emotion. We were talking before we press record in the green room about football, European football and American football. If my sports team wins a game, I'm happy for a little bit of time. If they lose a game, especially a big game, I'm unhappy for a little bit of time. Usually the next day, I've pretty much forgotten about it and I'm just moving on with my life, right? And I realize there are many different dimensions and different ways that we can be happy, but it's an emotion. Fulfillment is different, Tim. Fulfillment is an achievement. It's much deeper. I call it soul level fulfillment or soul level achievement. And the thing about an achievement, most of the time, it is immutable. In other words, can't take it away. So if you graduated university and you have a degree or a diploma or whatever you get for it, that's a sense of achievement and fulfillment. Nothing can take that away. My wife and I planned for both of our kids to graduate university without any student loan debt. That's a sense of achievement and fulfillment. Nothing can take that away. If I get to the gym 5 days in a week, because Tim, I think you know I'm a gym rat, I feel fulfilled at the end of the week. I got to the gym 5 days this week. That's a small achievement. So in that question on the survey, Tim, 79.2% chose fulfillment,
Right.
and 20.8%. Let's round that up to 80% of the survey respondents chose fulfillment if they could only be either fulfilled or happy. Hey, Pancham, good to see you. Thanks for the shout out.
Well, yes. So Pancham Prashar basically says, "Hey, Bernie. So good to see you. How would you differentiate health and fitness?"
Yeah, great question, Pancham. And
It is, isn't it?
yeah, trust me, I put thought into that before these 5 pillars. Look, there's no question fitness is very, very correlated to health. But the reason that I break it up into 2 pillars is because health alone is humongous. Health alone is made of 2 big components: physical health. And think about physical health, starts at the top of our head all the way to our toes. So, from a physiology standpoint, health, physical health is humongous. And then there's mental health, which is also humongous. That's big enough. So to throw fitness in there as one pillar, I just think is too much. The other reason that I separate fitness out is because, unless we're 18 or early 20s of age and we're looking to compete professionally as an athlete or in the Olympics, we're not, most of us are not doing that. So fitness is not about winning some competition, a trophy, or a big, multi-million dollar contract for the vast majority of the human race. Fitness is about just keeping our bones strong, maintaining our balance, and being able to function and do the things we need to do. Tim, I've told the story many times of, there was something in my backyard that I had to pick up. It was a little on the heavy side. I picked it up. I lost my grip. I was about to do a face plant on this thing. It was a tree trunk. But because I'm fit, I was able to, in the moment, split second, break my fall with both my hands, cushion my fall, and I didn't get a scratch on it. So whatever the situation may be, if you want to play pickleball, whatever it is in life, we need to have some level of fitness. And yes, Pancham, absolutely, it contributes to our health, but health alone is humongous. So let's give health its due recognition.
It's a good point, and thank you for that. It was a great question. So I was going to ask you about the data. So how did you come up with these 5 pillars? Because I know that you've done a lot about. You didn't just like, oh, we're just going to come up with these. You actually have actually done research and data on this.
Yeah, I really arrived at the 5 pillars through a combination of life experience, my own podcast interviews, because Tim, as you know, I host the Midlife Fulfilled podcast. We have an episode with you coming out here in a couple of weeks. And I've done over 200 episodes on the Midlife Fulfilled podcast. That has been a source of information and insight. And then the research that I did last year with Udemy on I call it the Thriving in Midlife report. It's a 157-page report. So lots of insights there. And then just kind of life experience, at this age in life, you and I are in similar ages. So we've got a lot of life experience. I think if you put all that together, it all led me to think, okay, this is how I see our life across, the spectrum of everything that we do: health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy. And, I've been asked, what about faith? What about people who are religious? I'm a person of faith, and that's in the relationship pillar, because your faith is a relationship. So every dimension of our lives spans across those 5 pillars. And that's really, it's the culmination of all that really enabled me to sort of arrive at that.
So why don't we? So we've kind of covered health and fitness. Why don't we talk? We've got 5 minutes, 6 minutes left. Why don't you just walk us through career, relationship, and legacy then?
Sure. Career is fairly obvious. The thing about career, especially as I talk to people in midlife, is that we go through different stages of our career. Sometimes it's just advancements, sometimes it's evolution, sometimes it's reinvention. And that happens a lot for those of us in our midlife seasons. Relationships is everything from the obvious: family, friends, community, work colleagues, and as I mentioned, faith. So every aspect of how we relate with other people, again, including our faith. And then legacy, Tim, that is about having an impact on something, whatever that something may be. It can be a cause, it can be the industry you work in, it can be a community thing, it can be a charity, it can be an individual or multiple individuals. But having the value and the desire to make an impact, have an impact on something, that's what legacy is about. And admittedly, Tim, legacy comes a little bit more into play as we get older and we think about our own mortality. I've been really enjoying your storytelling about the things that you've uncovered recently from your father and the things and
There's
how
loads
that's
more,
part
Bernie.
of.
Don't worry, there's loads more.
Yeah, and you've kind of been sharing his legacy, and I think it's all also becoming a part of your legacy to share that. Which, incidentally, for those watching and listening, that is the story that you tell in detail on my Midlife Fulfilled podcast. So check that out. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. But that's really the five pillars, and I'd love your feedback, Tim. I mean, do you see any holes anywhere? Do you think that there's anything missing?
No, I agree with you that probably legacy wasn't something that I would have necessarily thought of when I was in my 20s. But now, I mean, it's important for me, and also the fact that I'm sharing the legacy in terms of my father, because I've got a platform that I can actually do that. He was a very modest person, and what I want to do is make sure that I'm kind of digitalizing it, and I'm making sure that he's got a legacy going forward. And just to promote your podcast once more, Pancham is basically saying he's going to check it out.
Yeah, Pancham and I used to work together a long time ago. I don't know how many years it's been, Pancham, but good to see you.
So, so you've got the five. You've got those. So we've got these five pillars. What are we supposed to do with this?
So the first thing is self-awareness. Just be aware that we're all on the same journey. Every single one of us. We are going through life through these five pillars: health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy. At the beginning of our conversation, you asked me about my framework, the Fulfillment-Centric Leadership Framework. What I want to do is I want leaders to embrace this because leaders can enjoy their own fulfillment deeper and in a more intimate way with their own fulfillment. That enables them to lead with empathy and tremendous authenticity. And when leaders lead with authenticity, then the people on their team are more likely to embrace the relationship with the leader and be more productive, just bring their best selves to work and simply be more fulfilled both personally and professionally. We began our conversation with that point, Tim, and if we're close to wrapping, we can wrap on that point too, meaning we want to be both personally and professionally fulfilled because we're human. And so that's why I want people to, you say, what should we do with this? Learn about it. It's not rocket science, and then embrace it. And you position yourself to be both personally and professionally fulfilled.
Because I've read all the Brené Brown books, and I think they're awesome. And I love her view about vulnerability and stuff. But what I never felt was that there was like, this is how you implement it. And it may be, well, like you implement it yourself. I still think that there are people that are out there that are saying, how do I, what is the purpose of life? And what do I do? And I think, and I still think that this provides people with a framework in which to say, look, here are five things. And if you get these, and you're going to be up and down in each of these things at any one time in your life. But it's like a good way of, if you're moving these levers, then you're aren't you moving in the right direction?
Yeah. I mean, using myself as an example to get a little vulnerable, where I feel that I have the most work to do in those five pillars is the legacy pillar. There's some things in my career pillar that I'm still working on as well. But legacy is the one that I'm working on the most. And then the second pillar I'm working on also is career, where I want more fulfillment in my career. So having that self-awareness, knowing that I'm pleased with my fulfillment in health, fitness, and for the most part, relationships. And I'm working on career and I'm working on legacy.
Mm.
That just gives me that self-awareness of where I need to focus my energy, my time. And that's just something that lets me get out of bed every day with a plan, a purpose.
Yes. Yeah. Bernie, thank you so much for coming on and talking about fulfillment-centric leadership. Thank you. And thank you for Pancham for joining in as well. Bernie, where can people find you?
So again, I'm active on LinkedIn at Bernie Borges, and my website is midlifefulfilled.com. Of course, the podcast is there, blog posts, lots of good stuff there. So
And
thank
so
you, Tim.
the podcast that you've got is called?
It's called the Midlife Fulfilled Podcast. And so you can get it anywhere you listen to podcasts, but I also, put the show notes there on the website at midlifefulfilled.com. And obviously fulfillment-centric leadership information is also at the website as well.
Excellent. Bernie,